Hello and welcome to the next instalment of my series on BuzzFeed's How Privileged Are You? After tackling race, I've finally moved on. I am now going to be looking a little bit at sexuality. In particular, the privilege point, I am a heterosexual. It's a weird one for me. I don't identify really as straight or gay or bisexual or anything. I identify as me. I don't really see the point of labelling these things because when it comes down to it, who I find attractive isn't really going to be affecting anyone else, and it's my business. But anyway, this is going to be quite a long one, and it's going to be another two-parter, so get comfortable. So I really wanted to find a BuzzFeed article on straight privilege. I looked and I was largely unsuccessful. But then I found this gem. Why it's time to ban straight people. Ban straight people. Ban them. Ban them. Now, it's kind of obvious that this is going to be satirical, but the problem with SJWs and satire is that sometimes the joke is so close to the bone that you can't really tell whether it is or not. I want to believe that this is satire, so I'm going to go with that assumption. Except, let's just take a quick look at the guy who wrote the article, Matt Stopera. I think I'm saying that right. BuzzFeed's deputy editorial director. I took a quick glance down his Twitter feed, and my first impression? Yeah, this guy might actually be gay. And also, there is always this tweet. So let's just make the assumption that this guy is gay and has a sense of humour. Or that he's at least attempting to point out how ridiculous homophobia is by comparing it to this concept of heterophobia. So we're assuming this is satire. Yes? Yes. Great. Except, well, BuzzFeed is not The Onion. People are more likely to think that something like this is serious if they see it on BuzzFeed. And if there is one thing the internet has shown me, it's that people are stupid. There are clear pointers that it's not to be taken seriously, though. It is scientifically proven by branches of knowledge and discipline that if we don't ban straight people, the world will literally explode. Most likely satire. But there are instances of straight shaming actually happening on the internet. I'm going to move on to another list, 10 examples of straight privilege, and I found this on Everyday Feminism. This looks like it's a far more comprehensive list than the one I looked at for the race-related videos, so it might take me a little while to go through each point. Let's get started. Number 1, your orientation is neutralized from birth. One day, while I was shopping, I was simultaneously repulsed and amused to find baby onesies that said things like, "Ladies man," and "Lock up your daughters." Putting aside the obvious misogyny, I couldn't believe how early people jump at the chance to shoehorn their children into heterosexual narratives. A similar phenomenon occurs when baby boys smile at me in the grocery store. Their mothers will say something like, "Oh, look how he's flirting with you." Ma'am, your son barely has a grasp of object permanence, so I doubt he knows what a girl is. Heteronormativity is established before kids are even out of diapers. Although it's annoying and borderline creepy, it gives straight people an easy template for romance. When a boy has a crush on a girl or vice versa, they don't have to question why they like that person or the larger implications of liking that person. Their attraction to another gender is already anticipated and expected. Alright, so let's take a look at the Integrated Household Survey, January to December 2014, so it is relatively recent. In 2014, 1.6% of adults in the UK identified their sexual identity as lesbian, gay, or bisexual. The likelihood of an adult identifying as lesbian, gay, or bisexual decreased with age. Around 2.6% of adults aged 16 to 24 years identified themselves as lesbian, gay, or bisexual. This decreased to 0.6% of adults aged 65 or over. Around 0.5% of adults identified themselves as bisexual, with women, 0.7, being twice as likely as men to do so, 0.3. So basically, there's far more of a chance that your child is going to grow up to be straight than there is of he or she growing up to be gay. And yeah, I do agree that it is quite weird to dress your infant in clothes that in any way, shape, or form can point towards a sexuality. But as you state yourself, your child barely has a grasp of object permanence. That kid has no idea what's on its t-shirt. Why would clothing have any bearing on their sexuality? I'm also pretty sure that we live in a society where people can create and buy whatever they want. So if you want your baby to wear a gay pride onesie, I'm pretty sure you can go out and buy one. If you want it to wear gender-neutral clothes, go mad. If you're bitching about having heterosexuality normalised from birth, then don't comply to that concept. Don't buy the gross misogynistic clothes. It's your child, dress it however you like. And likewise, say what you like in regards to your child's behaviour. If he smiles, you don't have to say he's flirting. Some people might find that cutesy or whatever. I don't care. Just don't moan about the way kids are brought up, providing that they are happy, healthy, and loved. I mean, providing a child has parents who love them and do their best to keep them safe and well, then it's none of your damn business. Let's not even go into the fact that heterosexuality was, for the longest time, basically the only way to ensure the survival of our species. And no, this has nothing to do with privilege. Number 2, you don't have to come out. Building off number 1, you don't have to announce your heterosexuality to the world. Very few parents are going to be surprised or angry that their child is straight. People that you're sexually compatible with are still going to be readily available without having to confirm that you're both straight. And if you're thinking queer people only have to come out once, it's just a matter of gathering up the courage and ripping off the band-aid, you're wrong. Queer people have to come out over and over again throughout their lives. Next time you go to Thanksgiving dinner or score a date or make a friend, be grateful you don't have to discuss and defend your sexual identity. Nobody has to do anything. If a person wants to come out, then they can. That is their right, but they don't have to. Obviously, coming out is going to be preferable to keeping your sexuality and relationships secret from friends and or family, but if you get to a point where you feel you want to come out, then go for it. Embrace that part of yourself. If people have a problem with that, then it's probably because they are fucktards. They are not worth your time and effort. You have the privilege of knowing, after a single sentence, whether people are decent or not. I mean, I have to come out as an atheist over and over again, but I don't slap on a victim hat and say people who are religious are far more privileged than I am because they'll be more widely accepted. I also have to repeatedly come out as not thinking third wave feminism is a force for good. Again, it doesn't affect my privilege, despite it seeming to be an ever unpopular opinion. If a person is a cunt to you because of your sexuality, then abort mission. That is not a rational, decent human being. Or, stick around, answer their questions when they want you to discuss and defend your sexuality, and hopefully educate them. Become one of those people who spit in the face of imagined privilege and help those who aren't as socially educated as you are. Number 3, you don't have to justify your identity or the legitimacy of your orientation. No one is going to insist that heterosexuality is just a phase. You won't be asked to prove your straightness by rattling off your romantic or sexual history or trace it back to a particular moment in your childhood. You won't be told to pick a side. Heterosexuality is already legitimate in that it's backed by centuries of socio-cultural dominance and political laws. You can move through the world with your orientation and lifestyle unquestioned. Other than adolescents or kids who tend not to really know any better, who the fuck is going to ask you to rattle off all of the people you've boned? Again though, like in the last point, in some cases justifying your identity and the legitimacy of your sexual orientation, it can actually serve to educate people. I mean, not always, obviously, but I am really not a fan of this concept that talking about your sexuality or identity to other people who don't understand makes you underprivileged. Humans are by nature curious. I mean, check out how this man doesn't take offense and instead educates.
I feel like, gay men have more sex than straight men.
I don't know, I've been with my boyfriend for 10 years and I've never had sex with anybody else.
You seem like a cool guy, I think your whole sex thing's kind of gross.
I think your whole sex thing is kind of gross.
Fair enough.
It's true.
Number 4, your right to get married is never questioned. Whereas straight couples have had the right to get married just about anywhere without question since forever, up until the very recent US Supreme Court decision, same-sex marriage was only legal in 30 states. And our right to get married is still being continuously attacked. Everyone's right to get married is continuously attacked. There are people who think that marriage is a bullshit concept. I mean, have you ever run across a MGTOW? But overall, this actually isn't too bad a point. But there are far more people who are in favour of it than against it. And do you know how I know this? it's been legalized. The people who are actively against this are simply wrong. Let me just say this, though. Whatever happened to gay rights activists? They campaigned so hard to get the right to marry, and then they won. And now, on the whole, they're pretty quiet. Oh, maybe it's because they're largely rational human beings and tend not to complain when they actually win a fight. Unlike these third-wave feminists who spew forth from websites like BuzzFeed, Everyday Feminism, Jezebel, the Mary Sue, who constantly harp on about equal pay despite having it and have done for quite a long time now. Number 5, you cannot be fired for your job because of your sexual orientation. It might be unsettling to hear this in 2015, but you can still be fired for being queer in the majority of states. First of all, I think it should be you cannot be fired from your job, so maybe check through your articles before you post them. But anyway, the US really isn't the whole world, everyday feminism. In the UK, you cannot get fired for being gay. So clearly this privilege point, I am heterosexual, needs to be more nuanced. It's really shitty that the US is incapable of joining us in the 21st century. But I bet being born in the US is a privilege point in itself. Alright, so I have rattled on a bit here, and I will be doing the rest of the 10 examples of straight privilege in my next video. I really hope you've enjoyed this addition to my series on How Privileged Are You? And if you do, I would love it if you would like, subscribe, comment, and show people who you think might be interested. I have been 9 Levels Deep, and thank you for watching. A similar phenomenon, heteronormativity. Number 5, you cannot be fired for your job. Wait a second.